In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Season 1 of ReZero. As per normal, I can't use footage from the show, so I'm going to put my gameplay footage of The Binding of Isaac Repentance on the screen. Please note that none of those runs that I did were good, just fair warning. However, if you want to watch the stream VOD I took this from, I'll link it in the description. Let's start the review. I'm hitting you with my second anime review, and to set the tone for this video, ReZero Season 1 slaps. In a nutshell, the premise of the show is that there's this guy named Subaru who exits a store and ends up in another world that is magical and one that he has never seen or been in before. He has his own magical ability called Return by Death, and this ability works like dying and respawning in a video game. Subaru has checkpoints and he has no idea what counts as a checkpoint, or when he gets a checkpoint, when he dies, he goes back in time to that checkpoint, so it's kinda like time looping. He also doesn't lose any of his memories, but everyone else does. So Subaru has to use this ability to get the information that he needs to do things like, how does he save himself? How does he save this character? How does he save himself and this character? Is it even possible to do both? How is he going to get this task done? How is he going to get this person to help him without saying he can time loop? Because if he tells anyone he can time loop, his vocal cords get grabbed on, or the person he told it to dies. So he has to use words without saying he can time loop to get people to help him. Cause and effect in the show is amazing. I also think the puzzle of Subaru trying to solve the conflict and the overall storytelling is really well done. So for example, you get to see Subaru punch out the bad guy and save the girl, and you get to see how she responds to that. Then he dies and he has to do all of that over again, but the second time he doesn't punch out the bad guy and meets the girl as a complete stranger, and you get to see how she responds to that. The cause and effect is just really well done in this show. I'm sure you can tell by now, but I'm going to say it anyways. Subaru does fail a couple times before getting the quote-unquote good ending that he wants. In terms of a specific number of times he fails before getting the ending that he wants, it's 2 or 3 fails before he gets the good ending, quote-unquote. So it's not too many fails in my opinion. Something that I'm pretty surprised by is that dying never becomes easy in Season 1, and it's still a very difficult thing for Subaru to deal with, and it's also very difficult for him to commit suicide, and he only does it when someone important to him dies, but even then, it's difficult for him to commit suicide since he's in the dark about where his checkpoint is. Okay, so now that you've got the premise, I'm going to dive into the main selling point of this show, which is the characters. So like I said earlier, Subaru collects information, and something that he does is interact with people. So every time he fails to get the conflict resolved because of the way he interacted with another character, he tries interacting with them differently, and in general tries different things, and tries different things at different times. So you get to know a lot about most of these characters, which gives them a lot of depth, and Subaru does learn from his mistakes. I think the characters in this show have slightly above average depth to them, but this show has the potential to have insane depth levels for its characters, and I hope it achieves that insane depth level. I'm going to talk about a few positive points, and one I want to mention is that I really liked Peltiges and how well his insanity was portrayed. I also liked how Subaru is a bit mentally unstable from all the horrific deaths he has experienced. That characteristic isn't always there, which makes sense, but it's a nice touch. The show is also pretty dramatic with its emotions, and at times I think it's a bit much, but also at times I think they nail the dramatic stuff, like in episode 15, which I won't spoil beyond horrific and emotional. Something I haven't even mentioned yet is the animation. I think the animation in the show is good, and something else I need to talk about is the action. The show does not have a ton of action, but when there is action, it's enjoyable, but I need to make it clear that the action is not the main selling point of this show. To prove this point further, Subaru does figure out ways to not have huge battles with the antagonist. So I think that might disappoint some people, but I don't personally see that as a problem. A negative point that I see brought up a lot with this show is that Subaru is just human and isn't good at anything beyond being human and effectively using his return by death ability. And I personally don't see this as a problem, that Subaru is just human. Subaru is meant to be just human because if he was good at anything, none of the conflicts he faced would be a challenge and he wouldn't have to use his return by death ability as much, which is a very important part of the show. I'm going to talk about the characters Rim and Ram next. Rim and Ram are maids that work in a mansion, and I didn't really like them at their introduction because they were pretty robotic, but later on they get more depth to them and aren't as robotic as they were when they first got introduced. That was originally a negative point, but I'll give that half a negative point since they got better later on. Another negative point I want to mention is that Subaru makes some really dumb and selfish decisions during a conference, and that was really painful to watch because in all of the other situations he's in, he uses the information he's gotten and makes smart tactical decisions to make things go his way rather than not using his head and trying to force it. It's time to give the score, and I'm giving ReZero Season 1 a 4 out of 5. Again, I really liked the character's depth, and I really love the cause and effect this show has, and the puzzle of trying to solve the conflict. Some of the dramatic moments were done poorly, but most of the dramatic moments were well done, and although Subaru makes some dumb and selfish decisions that I didn't really like all that much that he made around the middle of the season, I still think this is a solid 4 out of 5. I'm excited to watch Season 2 ReZero. That's about it. See ya.